Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Live from the Blue Seats. It's producer JL coming at you today with Dave. No frizzy, no fancy introductions. It's just Dave. Dave,
Well,
how are you?
yeah, I mean, I kind of prefer that. There's no need to get all bootlicker shit on this, Dave is
La-
fine.
Ladies and gentlemen, the creator
Oh,
of the
shut the fuck
site,
up.
the man
Shut the
with the
fuck up.
plan,
Nope,
the
nope,
man,
you're done. I'm gonna
the
mute
man.
you. I'm gonna mute you. I can mute you.
Well, I can mute you too, but I'm a nice guy. I won't do that. Anyways,
No,
all
you're not.
right.
I think everybody listening has realized you pretend to be nice, but you're I wouldn't say that.
Oh, maybe that's why I'm still single. I don't know. Maybe that's why.
Ladies, actually, given the podcast audience and the demographics that we've seen, gonna go with all maybe 3 women who listen. Uh,
I
JL's a
think
good
that
guy. He
I
saved
think
my
that
cat from a tree.
I think the
You
term
know,
is put me out of my misery. I'm kidding. Anyways, all right, so let's jump right into it. So if you already didn't know, it's the Olympic break, and the United States played on the day that we're recording this. It would technically be yesterday when this comes out because we were releasing this on Friday. But the United States beat Latvia 5-1 in a very impressive showing. Now, what exactly does that mean? That means that there are no New York Ranger hockey games being played, and our mental health is being, let's just say, what's the word I'm looking for?
improved,
It's
improved.
improved. Yes, it has. It's definitely improved. I was actually at the last game before the break, and yeah, I think I was going to throw something at a child, not in the arena, just like a toy at a child. Like the Rangers were the child, and I was the annoyed parent. Just wanted to throw the thing at the child because they were being annoying. No, I would never throw anything at a child. The only thing I would throw at a child is a softball, like Peyton Manning did in that SNL skit. But anyways, that's beside the point. So there are
What
no
the hell are you talking about?
you ever seen that skit before? Where Peyton Manning.
No, but you just went on a very, very long rant about throwing things at a child. And for the record, you can throw balloons at a child. It's okay. You can throw, my kids have a ball pit. I throw the balls at them all the time. They
Yes,
love
I'm
it.
talking about
They
stuff
throw it
like
back
that.
at me.
I'm talking about stuff like that. I would throw
Yeah, like
soft
just,
things or things that can break at a child because they have to learn early that life is tough. So, but
I
that's
mean,
how
you
the
could start
Rangers.
with wrenches.
Yeah, well, wrenches.
Yeah, if you can dodge a wrench, you can
You
dodge a
could.
ball.
I knew you were gonna say that. I knew it. I was waiting. Once you said that, I was actually gonna repeat the line. You took it right out of my mouth. But that's how the Rangers made me feel when I was sitting at the Garden that Thursday. But anyways, so there's no Rangers hockey going on. So JT Miller looked somewhat decent today. Thanks, man. And Vincent Trocheck did as well. Can't wait for them not to do that when they come back from the break, which will be nice. But anyway, so we're gonna take this whole episode and pretty much dedicate it to your questions. Thank you for taking the time out on the website to put in your questions and on social media as well. We've been tailoring more to Blue Sky lately. That we've kind of got more activity on there. Not that we're going to abandon Twitter, but it's a little bit dead these days.
No, you are not going to abandon Twitter.
No,
I hate that fucking
I'm
place.
not going to abandon it. I'm still going to use it, of course, because we can always have any reach possible. Um, but thank you for submitting your questions, and I guess we'll just jump right into it. Uh, So this first question, and I saw this question come to life today, and I still don't know how I can answer this, so I'll probably just leave this to you. Tyler, Mr. Rangers Recap himself, asked us to bring our group chat to life. Equate the 25-26 Rangers roster to Pokemon.
Oh, Christ. Okay.
I genuinely do not know how to answer this, so I'm going to abstain because it's been so long since I've seen Pokemon, and I can't really remember much outside of like the original 99 from what I remember, and I don't
I'm
think
going to stick to the original ones that, my generation grew up playing.
yeah.
So the first thing that I said in the group chat was JT Miller is probably Snorlax. He's probably asleep for most of the season. He wakes up for a little bit. He's going to wake up for the Olympics, do something, then come back and fall asleep again. I had another one in the group chat, and I got to go searching for it now because that one was actually good. Oh, fuck.
Yes, we're now going into discovery mode to find out what exactly we said in the chat.
Yeah, because now I got to. Oh, Will Borgen is a Magikarp, which is kind of fucked up, but it's kind of funny. He's
I will,
just used.
I will trust your opinion on that.
It's the floppy fish, the orange fish.
Oh, okay. No, I know who Magikarp is.
Yeah.
I'm trusting your opinion that that's going to be accurate. So.
Oh no, I mean I'm just going off of names and pictures. Okay, so Mika Zibanejad is probably going to be your Pikachu. Everybody
Okay.
seems to love him again, and you get him pissed off, and he does something like score 5 goals in a game, and then he goes back to being lovable again.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay, let me get the roster. Okay.
Well, okay, let's go with let's try to stick with the bigger names because I think that we can kind of get lost in the shuffle. So I guess
Okay, yeah, that's very, very true.
So who's Adam Fox then?
Adam Fox. I got to go through the list of the Pokemon. I have. You know what? I'm gonna go with Eevee.
Okay.
Because Eevee on its own is basically like Fox at the Four Nations. But then Eevee evolves into insert one of like 45 different things here. Don't make me go through it, and they're all pretty good.
Okay.
So yeah, that'll go with.
Okay, what about Vincent Trocheck?
Jigglypuff.
Okay. Okay.
Why,
All right.
you ask? Everybody seems to like him, but you look under the hood right now, kind of useless.
Okay.
If you
What?
guys can't tell, I'm really, really snarky today.
Yes, yes, he is. This is the Dave that we like. Hopefully, we want to get snarky Dave when he's having a good day.
No,
We don't want
Dave
to
is
get
having the bad day today.
yeah, we
So
don't want Dave to have a bad day. But
Dave's
okay.
having a bad day.
So, all right, so we said Trocheck. What about Alexi Lafreniere?
Slowpoke.
Okay, fair enough. Gabe Perot.
Gabe Perot. I'm literally scrolling through this shit right now. Gabe Perot. Can I do a skip?
Yes.
Skip.
Braden Schneider.
Braden Schneider. Okay, what's one that everybody loves but is also useless?
I feel like that's most of them.
Yeah, that's also very, very fair.
Because honestly, if you really think about it, I this is just my personal opinion. I think the only real useful Pokemon are Mew and Mewtwo. Obviously, they're kind of the same, and then maybe Charizard.
You know what? Hold on. So he does deliver decent hits. He looks a little tough. Looks tough, but doesn't really follow that up. So I'm gonna go with Nidoking.
Okay, fair enough. And we'll do a couple more. Let's see. Will Cooley.
Oh, I like Cooley. Don't do this to me. I like
Tyler
Cooley.
asked the question. We have to give the man what he wants.
You know what? I'm gonna make Cooley into Charizard.
Okay.
I like Cooley.
Okay. And I guess who would be one more that we can say? Oh, Jonathan Quick. Let's just go with Quickie. I think that'd be a fun one.
What is the oldest Pokemon there is? Like, is there Grandpa Pokemon?
Well, if we had to pick a Pokemon for you, we would pick that one.
No, I am older than Quick, actually, so that does check out now that I think
You're what,
about
a
it.
year or two older than him? You're really not that much older, truth be told.
I'm turning 42.
Quick is 41.
Quick is
41.
already he just turned 40. So I got 2 years on him.
Oh, I thought he was 41. Oh, okay.
Quick. You know what? Let's go with Ditto.
Okay.
Because you know what? In most of these Instagram reels that I see, Ditto is an evil bastard, and I will never forgive Jonathan Quick for 2014.
Oh God.
But uh, uh, he is, of I guess, cosplaying as somebody we like right now. So we'll go with that.
Oh my gosh. Two. Just one phrase for you on that regard. Get over it. Okay.
You could fuck right off with that. All right. Oh, and Matt Rempe is definitely the punchy one. I'm trying to find it so I can give a name. What the hell is the name of the punchy one? Machamp.
Yes. Actually, no. That's pretty good. I like that. That's pretty good.
There's another one called Slowpoke that
I think you said that was Lafreniere.
was that slow. Oh no, Drowsy. Sorry, Drowsy.
Ah. Okay.
And that's definitely Taylor Radish.
Well, we hope Radish gets traded soon enough. He's
Yeah.
kind of useless at this point. But anyways, I think that's the best we can do for now. We could be here all night, just kind of going over what Pokemon fit. But thank you,
Yeah.
Tom, for that question. You've definitely got Dave thinking differently. Um,
Yeah, that was a good one. That
that
was a
was a
good
good
one.
question.
I needed that. It's been a really shitty day, folks.
Yeah, I get you. I like that question. So Tyler, feel free to ask us more crazy questions like that, and this to anybody too. Feel free to ask us some pretty wacky questions if you want, even if you think it sounds ridiculous. Just remember, I exist in this world, so nothing is ever really that much ridiculous to me. All right, next question. This comes from DSAM at dsam1921.bsky.social, and DSAM asks, how concerned are you with the uncertainty of the center dip going forward, given the injuries, Miller, Laba, plus Trocheck, and maybe Carrick on the move? Could it be a blind spot that bites back if it doesn't get addressed? What is there to look forward to for this team at this very vital position?
Yeah.
I was actually thinking
So
about this earlier today, but go ahead.
yeah, I'm operating under the assumption that next year is also a lost year. So doesn't really concern me too much. You got Mika, you got Laba. Green Tree's a winger, but I do think the Rangers are going to get a center prospect that they can kind of chuck into the NHL right away as a third line center. You got JT Miller, whom I believe should be on the wing because he's been absolutely fucking useless this year. Um, I'm not concerning myself with position because the goal here should be get as much talent as possible, get as many assets as possible, and then figure it out later with who becomes available. Like, you don't know how the draft is going to go. You don't know what the center prospects are going to turn out to be. Because remember, there's also Dylan Rubrick, who has been kept at center
Mm-hmm.
in Hartford. There's Carrie Terrence has looked like shit this year. Bryce McConnell Barker, who's still getting over his 95 different injuries that Hope keeps us updated on.
Mm-hmm.
So you have some depth guys. And then you have Edstrom and Rempe, who can also play the position, but they haven't done it in the NHL. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't really worry myself with position just yet.
So I was thinking about this while I was watching the Olympic game. I was watching U.S. versus Latvia, and something tells me that they are going to make a trade for a center. Oddly enough, considering it also kind of depends on what they do with Vincent Trocheck. Uh, I'm still kind of 50-50 on that. I'm hoping if they do end up trading Trocheck that the return is pretty good. But I think that if it also kind of depends on where they land on at the draft because obviously if you get one or two, it's got to be Stenberg or McKenna. You have to. I mean, there's no reason it can't be one of those guys, right? So if they let's just say they get one or two because honestly anything can really happen, and the draft lottery seems to be very random. Um, but I think honestly, if all things considered, they get if they get between 1 and 4, or at least if they get 3 or 4, depending on what the team needs, I think that they go for Lawrence from Boston College. Let me just think it's Tynan Lawrence, and he comes out of BU. Okay, just wanted to make sure I got that right. So Tynan Lawrence is one of the top draft prospects this year, along with Stenberg and McKenna. I think Lawrence is apparently projected to be a number one type center. So I think that would kind of, ease a lot of the issues that they have because that's a kid who apparently you could just toss into the fire as a number one center. And maybe pair him with like a Perot or maybe even a Lafreniere that could potentially jolt his career going forward. Because truth be told, I don't think that they're going to trade Lafreniere. I think that you can get a lot for Schneider and Lafreniere depending on what you want to do. But apparently, the Rangers think that they can still fix Lafreniere. There's still some talent there. I somewhat do not disagree that you want to give up on him so fast. So if you get like a Tynan Lawrence from BU, put him with Gabe Perreault or even Alexi Lafreniere, even a Will Cooley, I think that kind of solves a lot of problems because then that allows you to essentially not say completely fill the role that Panarin left, but you can definitely get a lot of scoring out of one of those guys on the wing. And it'd be even better if you end up having Trocheck, so then that just kind of adds a little bit more depth to your team because now you can really move things around and really solidify a line with like, say, for example, uh, it's I know Rob had talked about this. I don't know if this was you or Rob that mentioned it, but they were also talking about putting Trocheck on the wing. That wouldn't be a bad idea if they were to
Trocheck's
get.
gone, dude. You got to stop. Trocheck's gone.
I
Like
don't know,
it's
Dave. I
a
honestly
foregone conclusion. He's gone.
I don't know. I honestly don't think that they will. If they do, I won't be shocked, but I will if Drury's really that committed to this quote unquote rebuild or this retool rather, then trading Vincent Trocheck makes absolutely no sense.
How
Again,
does it not
I
make sense?
no. Listen, hold on. It doesn't make sense because unless you're guaranteed to get Tynan Lawrence in the draft, which it's not guaranteed, then you're trading Trocheck right now it just kind of would hurt that they essentially they'd be lying to us. They should have just come out and said it's a rebuild because that's what it seems like it's going to be. And that's what we want. It's a rebuild. But if they're saying a retool, it wouldn't make sense to me for Drury to send off Trocheck, who they gave an A to. He's friends with JT Miller. I think they're trying to keep that together because I think they're trying to squeeze out as much as they can from that. Do I think they should trade Trocheck? Yes, I do. Because ideally, with him having term and controllability, if that's even a word, it's probably not. But him having control and term, it's a good deal for a team to really move things around and kind of get this sort of like similar trade with like Mika Zibanejad, Derek Brassard. I don't think Drury's going to do that. That's the assumption I'm operating on. If he
So
ends up trade,
let me give you something to consider here. The two teams that we've heard are Minnesota and Detroit. So let's say Minnesota says no to including Danila Yurov and they put Charlie Stramel in the deal instead. Does that change how you feel about this?
I mean, I want it to happen. So yeah, I mean, not that
Okay.
it changes. I want them to. I'm telling you, I want them to trade Trocheck.
All right. All right. You
I,
just don't
I
think they will.
I just don't think they will because again,
Because
uh,
that would be Drury just being Drury.
right. So ideally, I would make that trade for Yurov you just said his name and I lost it. I would make that trade with Minnesota.
Charlie Stramel.
Yeah,
Or Nate Danielson out of Detroit, who's the other guy.
right. I would make that trade because at the end of the day, you can always trade for another center. But because Trocheck is with, he's buddies with JT Miller and, he's the quote unquote alternate captain, I don't think Drury wants to really have that much turnover anymore, considering what he attempted to do. And look, on the aspect of trying to get rid of what didn't work, I agree with it. It's just the execution was not good, and a lot of the execution has been bad. Okay. So that's where I stand on that. But so in terms like the center depth, now I think they'll be okay. But like you said, it's really just kind of at this point just kind of stockpiling what they have so far. I still, as much as I can't stand him right now, and I will talk about this at one point, or if it gets brought up with some of the questions. JT Miller's really grinding my gears right now. I still think that he's a valuable player to a degree. I still think that there is some value left in him as a player for this team currently because last season was not a fluke. I don't think he's done yet. I still think there is some value you can get from JT Miller for the next 2 or 3 years. Whatever happens beyond that is beyond that. So, it's more than likely leading to the conclusion that he's playing hurt. So if you can get a healthy JT Miller with both legs and all of his appendages together, then I think that there is some value in there and that could probably provide some scoring. So I'm not too concerned, but if they end up getting a guy like a Tynan Lawrence, or if Trocheck doesn't get traded and they have a top pick for a Sternberg or a McKenna, I think they'll be okay because if you have those high end guys on the sides, or if let's say they don't get, let's say they don't trade Trocheck and they don't trade Trocheck and they keep him and they end up getting a high pick for Stenberg or McKenna. You're basically adding a lot more speed onto the wings, and you can kind of live with having Miller, Laba, Trocheck, and Carrick down the middle, especially if you're trying to win next season. So there's my thing on that. So thank you, DSAM, for that question. All right, go to the website. We've got a couple on here so far, and thank you again for sending us your questions on the website as well. So this first question comes from Love Rangers, and they ask, last year there was a lot of drama around the team, Truba and Kreider status, that seemed to affect the team and caused a lot of the team's bad play. This year it was Panarin's UFA status and injuries that seemed to have a similar effect. That's 2 years in a row. Looking at next year, what issue could arise that would also affect their play? It seems like this team has a very fragile mindset. That's a good question, actually.
That is a really good question. What could come up that would impact their fragile mindset? Sneezing wrong at this pace? I
Trocheck.
know I'm being facetious, but yeah, trading Trocheck, if they don't do it by this deadline and they do it over the summer, that would impact them. That's a good call.
Probably Schneider too, I'd imagine.
No, I don't. Kid's
Oh,
24.
well, maybe Lafreniere too, probably.
No, he's also no. I think it would be Trocheck because it feels like the guys that are just coasting are the veterans, and they lead by example, and their example sucks.
That's fair. I mean, Trocheck's the only one I could really think of right now. Um, unless they end up really making a bigger trade and not getting a good return out of it. And also, I think also too, it just kind of depends on what they do in free agency. I think everything is kind of contingent on each other at this point, like in terms of
Yeah,
how the
it is.
roster is. Um, you have to see what happens at the deadline or what happens at the draft, and then after the draft, what happens in free agency. Because realistically speaking, there isn't really much out there in terms of free agency. So I think in terms of trying to get another solid player would end up going to the trade route. How much confidence I have in actually them doing the right thing is practically zero at this point. So yeah, I think Trocheck is probably the more realistic option. And I think a team's with a fragile mindset. I just think that, I mean, it's true, but I hopefully they kind of pick that up and realize that this is what you get paid for, and hopefully too, with next season not being an Olympic year, with games a little bit more spread out, that allows for a bit more room for trying to figure things out, so to speak. Because it kind of seems like, if you really think about it, not to give an excuse, but it just kind of seems like for a bit, everything just kind of, you have a tough loss that you played well in, and then you play the next night and you get beat the same way. You don't really know what you're doing, and it kind of just falls, just kind of one thing falls and snowballs and avalanches on another. But all right. Next question comes from G8 Lafreniere. Here's a serious question. How much do you think this season is because of Mike Sullivan being the coach versus how much it is it on roster construction? They say Sullivan coaches a very low event style of hockey, defense first type of guy, yet our best assets are mostly known for their offensive ability. Not one on this roster is earning any Selke votes even before Panarin being traded. What in your mind fixes this issue? Does Drury move on from Sullivan, say if this type of season continues next year, or who does he trade or sign or bring up that can play Sully's type of game? This is why I don't see any optimism for the future, because Sullivan isn't likely going anywhere, nor is Drury. So the only option is the players. Yet the players that need to be moved on all have no movement clause on their contracts for the next 3 years? It's another good question, actually.
Uh, Good question, but not fully factual. So for starters, yes, Sully does coach a low event style of hockey, defense first. But it's not like he had a team of Patrice Bergerons in Pittsburgh. He had Evgeny Malkin. I think he had Phil Kessel at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there he had Chris Letang. So these are all offense first guys. So the concern about Sully to me isn't about his tactics. It's about the fact that he and Miller just are not on the same page and his message is not getting through to the captain of the team. That's a bigger problem than any kind of roster construction or any kind of on ice play. In terms of what they can do to fix that, I don't know, fire Miller into the sun. I never wanted JT Miller on this team, so that's where I stand on it. Um, but the roster construction does need to change. They do need to get younger and faster. So I don't want that to slip through the cracks here. I think they're independent of each other, though. I don't think Sully's type of game is the issue. I think it's lack of skill and the skill guys being absolute dog shit this year. But I do want to point out one thing. If the Rangers were winning, Mika Zibanejad would be getting Selke votes.
100%. Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Yep. He would
And
1,000% be, I think he would be a finalist this year if the Rangers were good.
I think I can't really put this on Sully too much. I think he's just trying to work with what he's got, and the best coach can only work with what he's given. And sometimes you can't make, you can't polish it. You can only polish a turd so much. Um, I think JT Miller needs to grow up. That's weird to say about a 33-year-old man. Um, but you know, I think him and Sullivan will figure it out. They have to. I mean, you're the captain of the team. You have to learn how to coexist because Sullivan ain't going anywhere. Like G8 Lafreniere said, Drury and Sully are not going anywhere. Uh, I don't really think it all they really need to do is just get quicker, at least in terms of foot speed. Uh, the system is fine. It's more about personnel. So this kind of falls more on Drury than anything. And I said this on one of the other podcasts. Is you hope that with Sullivan's pedigree of winning 2 Stanley Cups and having a really good brain trust in Pittsburgh and him learning from that, and also having learned under John Tortorella, that he would impart some knowledge on Chris Drury that could really bring this team into a different level. It doesn't have to be flashy. You know, we're so used to watching this team outscore other teams for such a long period of time around the Alain Vigneault years and even during the Gerard Gallant, Peter Laviolette years. Those teams knew how to score because the system warranted it and the personnel, granted not the best in terms of even strength metrics, but they know how to put the puck in the back of the net. So uh, I think that they just have to get more skill and get quicker. And honestly, if you have one or two guys on the team that can really. So the way that I see it is similar to how the 2004 Tampa Bay Lightning were put together. I mean, granted, it's going to be hard to find a Brad Richards, a Vinny Lecavalier, and a Martin St. Louis. But the point I'm trying to make is that you had at least two guys on that team who could put the puck on the net and put it in the back of the net with a lot of skill. And I would say that St. Louis and Lecavalier were those guys. And then they were surrounded by hard workers who were, they're pretty damn good in their own right. But the Rangers seem to have a lot of those guys who are pretty damn good in their own right. They just don't have the high end skill to do it. Gabe Perreault could be that guy as he continues to progress and get up to speed with the NHL. But then who else do they really have? It should be JT Miller. Mika Zibanejad is pulling his weight. So you would kind of have to throw that in there. I think that's what helps fix this problem. And then obviously get quicker on defense too. I will say this before we move on to the next question. Vincent Iorio didn't look terrible in his first game as a Ranger. I think that was actually kind of a low-key decent pickup because then you keep him for another year, allows you to get rid of Vakanainen, definitely has a little bit more foot speed and seems to kind of fit the size and skills thing that they're trying to add onto the back end. Throw in Dylan, Drew Fortescue. I think they'll be okay with Adam Fox. All right. Next question. This comes from Nikki70, and Nikki asks, maybe not a fair question, but Spot Track is saying the Rangers have about 3.85 million in cap space. This is after the trades of Panarin and Susi, which totaled close to 9 million moved. I somewhat get that the prorated stuff, but how would you translate to taking on other teams' contracts? Should Drury look to gain some draft picks?
That number is probably impacted by Adam Fox being on long-term injured reserve. I wonder if Sportrack has him listed as a regular roster player now that they had the cap space. But I just think that's how they have it listed, because I'm checking the Stanley Cap and cap wages, and both of them have the Rangers with Fox on long-term injured reserve and about 12 million in cap space remaining. So I think it's just the websites. We don't have a cap friendly anymore, which was the be all end all source of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna have sites with different information, unfortunately. In terms of the question, how would this translate to taking on other teams' contracts? If the Rangers keep Fox on long-term injured reserve, then they can eat a contract for this year. If they don't, then we have to see what happens with moving Trocheck, because that's another $5.6 million. I do think Drury should weaponize cap space and try to get an extra draft pick out of keeping, say, a Logan Couture contract if they make a deal with San Jose or any other contract like that. But it's tough to really gauge it right now because we don't know what the end goal is for Drury.
Right. And Spot Track does have Fox listed on injured reserve on LTIR. So I think
IR or LTIR?
LTIR. He has him listed on
Okay.
LTIR.
And they
So
only have 3.85 million?
yes, because I think they're retaining about 5 million up in Aaron's contract for the rest of the year. So I'm
So do the
so
other two sites.
yeah, I just think in that regard, I think when it comes to that sort of that sort of deal when it comes to the draft picks. I think that happens after the season, once the calendar year changes, or once they're allowed to kind of go over the cap, and then you have to kind of get under it. I think that's what that's going to be, and I agree with you that they should weaponize cap space on that. But I guess in terms of just a question, real quick on bringing in players with other contracts, I think that's kind of ideal at this point to kind of look to see what other teams are looking to shed some assets with draft picks and just try to use that to sort of maneuver and navigate what you could potentially keep and what you can't. Again, this is also very on this is also very on point when it comes to will they move Trocheck and how will that impact them moving forward. Well, obviously we'll know more in the next couple of weeks once they come out of the Olympic freeze, because the deadline is, I want to say, March 6th. So it's really not that far away from when they resume and the freeze ends, which is like in another week and a half. So we'll be able to know more about that. But definitely, if they can get assets for players that other teams don't want, you could potentially find some talent through that. You would hope it'd be secondary scoring, but I think it's probably going to be a defenseman. But that's beside the point. All right, next question comes from, actually, Mr. Whiskers has two questions here. And the first one, Mr. Whiskers asks, latest stuff on the net is questioning Sullivan and
On
Miller's
the
ability.
net.
Yeah,
Mr.
latest
Whiskers, I
stuff.
gotta ask how old you are.
I mean,
Sorry. You're kind of dating yourself on that one, bud.
oh, let him live.
I know.
Latest
I'm having some fun. Don't take it personally. I'm just having some
latest stuff on the net is questioning Sullivan and Miller's ability to coexist. A quote from Elliot Friedman: "He's the coach and Miller's the captain. They have to work with each other to make it better." Or the Rangers are going to have to change something there too. What do you make of this? Then Mr. Whiskers also asks, also with some of the trade rumors, trade returns we are said to be able to receive by trading Trocheck, do you think Drury just might be enticed to trading Miller as well and just going full rebuild and tear down?
God, I fucking hope so. Okay. We kind of addressed this initially with the Sully question before with Miller. if they're not on the same page, something has to change, and it isn't going to be Sully going anywhere.
Oh,
It'll
it'll
be
100% be
Miller.
Miller. Oh yeah.
And again, I'm wildly biased here because when all this Miller stuff started happening around about 13 months ago, I wanted Elias Pettersson. I wanted nothing to do with JT Miller. He's an amplifier. If the team is good, he makes them better, which is great. If the team is bad, he makes them worse, which is bad. So right now the Rangers are bad and he's making it worse.
Yeah.
So I want nothing to do with a leader who only leads when things are going well. The whole point of a leader is to keep the team moving forward, keep eyes on the prize, even when you look like shit. And even when your friends are being moved or traded or fired into the sun or forced to take a waiver claim to San Jose, shit like that. So, like, the entire leadership, JT Miller to me, and this, I think this is the best way to summarize it. JT Miller to me is not a change in the leadership group that we all came to dislike last year. He is just an extension of it. He's just much more vocal about it. He's the
Well,
exact same personality. He's going to complain when things are bad. And I never wanted anything to do with him. If it's a choice between Sully and Miller, I choose Sully. If Drury is enticed to trade Miller, great. I don't think it's going to happen. I think they're going to figure it out at some point, but I am done with anybody over the age of 30 on this roster at this point.
like the exception to Mika's Zibanejad. I will take.
I like Zibanejad, I like Shesterkin, I like Gavrikov.
Yeah. So
The American players. There we go. The American players over 30.
yeah, I guess. So so again, I think Miller does still have some value here because again, that's the skill doesn't just disappear overnight. I think that granted the roster construction of the team has not been great. I'm not excusing any of it. Jory has not done a good job so far in terms of trying to flip things over. I'm not giving excuses of that. You also have to factor in there have been a lot of injuries, including Miller himself, so that definitely doesn't help. These guys are going to play through it, and they're going to try and tough it out. That hasn't helped at all either, with the fact that there really isn't much top end skill. That's kind of the main culprit here, is that there really isn't much. There, before it was just Panarin. Now Panarin is gone. You need a guy who can complement Zibanejad, and you hope it can be Gabe Perreault. That's a holding out hope kind of thing, and I think Perreault, and I'll say this to be fair, Perreault, Miller, and Zibanejad have actually been a pretty good line. Is that controversial? If it is, I don't care. They've been very good. Every time they're in the offensive zone, they tend to do things, but
Yes, that is accurate. They are
they
good.
need another player that, if you don't trade Trocheck, you need another player that can basically do what Panarin did and maybe one extra player who can contribute to that as well. But to talk about Miller and Sully, um, I think they should be able to work it out because you have to remember with the fact that Drury was looking for Mike Sullivan all this time, you have to already know that all three of them came together and talked about making Miller captain. So if they're having some sort of disagreement, it has to be either from Miller or something must have changed or whatever. But if again, like you said, if I had to pick between Miller and Sully, I'm picking Sully because Sullivan again has two Stanley Cups, and I'm more inclined to go with him over JT Miller. But you also have to remember, like I said, that they all were in agreement, Drury, Sullivan, and Miller, to be the next captain of this team. Apparently, they consulted everybody on the roster, or at least some of the leadership group on the roster, probably Fox, Zibanejad, probably Panarin before he got traded. They consulted them. So clearly, Miller seems to be a guy that's wanted here. So they have to make the best of that situation. So I think a lot of it right now is just kind of frustration with kind of how the first part of the season went. A couple of bounces, go different directions. We could be singing a different tune, probably the Rangers in the playoff spot. This is a blessing in disguise. You get a nice high draft pick going into the summer. You get some more high end skill, and then maybe hopefully make a trade or two to kind of fix some things. How whether Drury can do it, I don't think he can, but the possibility is still there. But Sully and Miller are going to have to coexist. Whatever this is probably just out of pure frustration. I hope that I'm right on that it's just frustration and that they can learn to move on because they're playing on the Olympic team right now. They have to know each other. They've played was it last season Four Nations? So it's not like they're unfamiliar with each other. They probably just kind of have to get used to some things. It just wouldn't make sense to me that all of a sudden because the team is losing, that these two guys hate each other. Like no, and if they do, grow up. Okay. Next question. This comes from Midline Shift. Any suggestions for players with bad contracts the Rangers could add to take advantage of all that cap space?
Ooh.
P.S. The most tragic part of what Drury has done to the Rangers is how he switched producer jails preternatural optimism. That alone should be a fireable offense. Well, Midline Shift, thank you very much for that. Yes, it is a fireable offense. I have found some more optimism lately because I just kind of naturally do that, but I am still somewhat pretty jaded. So yes, it is a fireable offense. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much for noticing that. Um, Suggestions for players with bad contracts. I don't really have anyone off the top of my head.
I do.
Go
I do.
ahead.
So I said Logan Couture already.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Unfortunately,
Before you
yeah.
start, refresh my memory if you know this, and I apologize for not knowing this ahead of time. Um,
How dare you?
are you still under the new CBA? Are you still allowed to use someone on LTIR like that as extra cap space, essentially?
I think
Because
so.
I feel like with what's gone on with the Vegas Golden Knights, and there was this sort of thing that went on with the CBA that they probably weren't allowed to do that anymore.
Oh no, it's just that your playoff roster has to be cap compliant.
Oh, okay. So you could
Not like the
probably do it
Rangers have to worry about that shit. So
right, but I'm guessing that it has to be regular season. You can get away with it, but once the playoffs start, there has to. Yeah.
yeah. So if somebody, so let's use Stone. Mark Stone is the example here. Since you went with Vegas, Mark Stone will be on long-term injured reserve the entire year. Vegas would be able to have a cap compliant roster for the regular season because he was on long-term injured reserve, and then for the playoffs he came off, and there's no cap in the playoffs, so they could still dress him and be $10 million over the cap. That loophole has been eliminated. That's
Okay.
what's been removed. So for the Rangers, Logan Couture in San Jose has another $8 million next year that San Jose might want to leverage. But that's for next year. If there is somebody this year, I know Richter in the comments said Patrick Laine, 8.7 million this year. He's not playing again this year. So if
I would agree with
Montreal
that.
if Montreal really wants to make a push to surprise teams in the Eastern Conference, they're going to need cap space. So 8.7 million is something the Rangers can absorb right away in exchange for, I don't know, a second round pick. I'll take that.
Fair enough.
Carolina, Jesperi Kotkaniemi,
That's such
four
a
point eight.
such an is he not playing? Like, is he really that hurt?
He
Oh,
who Line or
no,
Kotkaniemi?
Kokoniemi.
No, he's playing. It's just he's making $4.8 million as a fourth line, third line center.
Oh man.
And he's got another 1, 2, 3, 4 years left on his contract.
Oh my
He's
gosh.
25. He's 25 years old. So he's not old. I would be intrigued by that only because you get that this year and next year don't matter. So we're starting 27, 28 at this point. 3 years for a $4.8 million third line center. Not the greatest use of cap space, but
Well,
also
cap
not.
is going
I mean,
up.
cap is going up significantly by that time, and $4.8 million. Let's say he winds up being your Sam Carrick replacement. You got somebody who has, at the very worst, replacement level metrics. I mean, Carolina looks like they want to get rid of him and they want to upgrade from him. So leverage that. I don't know how, but
Fair enough.
leverage it.
Fair enough.
Uh, Toronto is another team that I would go after. If they really are like, you know what? We don't like Austin Matthews anymore. Oh no, I'll take
I
that contract.
I was thinking about that earlier today too. That while I was watching the game, I said I feel like because of the lack of center options, um, and with them just trading Panarin, I think that the Rangers could. I mean, obviously, if this trade were to ever happen, bye bye Gabe Perreault and your first round pick, and probably Alexi Lafreniere too. But at this point, I'm more than willing to do that for an Austin Matthews, regardless of how quote unquote unclutch he's been. Um, that's a skill. That's a high skill guy that they could work with. But whether Toronto does it or not remains to be seen. So it's kind of pie in the sky there.
You know what else would be really funny? If the Rangers and Devils find common ground on one of their awful contracts. Dougie Hamilton. Not an awful contract, Dougie Hamilton, mind you. He's still solid, but he's not $9 million solid.
Holy crap! I totally forgot
Yeah,
he signed the contract. That's Adam Fox money.
that is Adam Fox money. There's also Brendan Dillon, who has $4 million, and he's not very good anymore. So that'll be really funny if Fitzgerald is the GM over there.
So two stupid guys, and which one is able to take advantage of each other? Pretty much.
Yeah,
That's
it's
pretty
basically
much what you're
which
saying.
one can out stupid the other one.
Well, I would find it funny if Fitzgerald really decides to blow it up and he decides to trade Jack Hughes. And my pipe dream is that Jack Hughes becomes a Ranger.
Could you imagine? Could you imagine?
again, the Rangers being bad has got me thinking delusional. So to what
And
midlife
then he
shift is
stays
saying,
healthy for his entire Rangers career.
and yeah, well, midlife shift, I've become more delusional than positive at this point. But I mean, that's kind
Yep,
of what's keeping me going.
that'll be
All
really
right.
funny.
So I guess those are just some players, but I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure we'll get more into that as once the off season comes around, or even towards the deadline. When we take a look at more of some kind of contracts coming around. All right, this next question comes from. Okay, well, first, I'm gonna read this one from Long Time One Time, and this Elvis has wished he'd left the building. That is actually submitted as a question or as a comment. I think that's great. I'm guessing in returns of the Rangers. That is a comment that's not attached to another question that was actually submitted, and I think that's fantastic. This next question comes from Spozo. What about retaining half of Trocheck's salary in a trade? Any contender would need to do minimal cap moves. No salary would need to come back. 2.75 million for the next 2 seasons isn't a big hindrance, and Drury's not going to get this team back in contention by that time. Would that take any return up a notch? Although with Drury, that notch may be a third instead of a fourth. That's pretty good. I like that.
I love the
Well,
little caveat at the end there. That's good.
yeah,
But so Trocheck does have 3 years after this one left. So minor caveat there.
I
Five
don't.
point six million divided by two. What are we at? 2.8 million.
Well,
Yeah.
just about.
Yeah.
I don't think they do that. I think that's a bit. I know there was a similar deal with. Well, this one was just absolute bonkers. When
Wasn't
San
that the
Jose.
hurdle deal that
Yeah, it was just San Jose and Vegas, whereas I think Hurdle has like 4 years left on his deal, 4 or 5 years. It's a pretty long term deal, and San Jose is essentially retaining the money. All, if I'm correct, I could be wrong, but San Jose is retaining a lot of what's on that deal as the years go on, and I think obviously with the cap going up, I think it's a solid strategy to a degree, but I don't think that I don't think Drury should do it because I wouldn't trust him with that. And honestly, Trocheck's contract doesn't seem like it's too bad for a team to take on its own, at least for the next couple of years. I think if you end up trading Trocheck, you want to maximize your returns, soften the blow, retain some part of that 6.5. It's about 6.5, yeah, about that 6.5, and then
5.625.
5.6. Yeah, sorry. But even better, 5.6. You retain some of that for this season only, and then they take the hit, which honestly is kind of a pretty decent deal, all things considered. I think that's kind of more of the route that they'll go at this
Yep.
point. And if they don't get a first from that trade with at least two players you can put on the roster, then you really need to tell Drury to go kick rocks and go hire someone who can actually supplement this roster with players.
So I'm going with Minnesota again as my Trocheck destination because Minnesota. He's taking the damn picture with the staff. Come on. He's going to Minnesota.
Don't get me
Anyway,
started on that.
I thought it was funny just because I'm like 97% sure that trade is done at this point. They're just going to wait to announce it. Let Minnesota accrue a little bit more cap space and then just have it happen. Anyway, if you take Trocheck and his $2.8 million for this year and send it over to Minnesota, so that's 50% retained, I think with 3 years left on that contract at 5.6 million, that puts him, by the way, under Matt Boldy's contract and barely above Erickson X contract. So I think you can get at that point Strammel. I think you can get one of Spacek or Juracek, considering they just traded for Juracek. I think they're going to go with Spacek. That's the defenseman prospect. I
Okay.
think they can get a 2028 first round pick. And then for their salary retention, maybe you wind up with a 27 fourth round pick. I think that is perfectly doable. I think that's fine. Maybe you don't even get the fourth round pick and the salary retention is enough to bump the pick up to a first round pick. But I think that's what we're looking at from a Trocheck trade return with 1 year of retention. If they do all 4 years of retention, you better get a fourth valuable piece.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
Oh,
you better get something else that is not in addition to Strammel, one of the defense prospects, and a first round pick. You better get something else.
I agree. 100%. All right,
And if
next
it's
question.
Nicholas Aubé-Kubel, I'm going to strangle somebody.
He actually wasn't terrible here for the little he played.
Yeah, but he's 39, and he's not 39 years old. He's 29 years old, but still, he's not. He's an age. You know what I mean.
Yeah, I
Anyway,
know what
move
you
on.
mean.
Move on.
All
I'm
right.
talking myself in circles.
Next question comes from, this is actually directed to you, Dave.
Oh,
Sure to ask,
oh yeah, it is.
any chance of a game thread for Team USA games? That's not a bad idea.
If there is a want for it, I'll gladly do it. I didn't plan on it, but I'm looking at.
They
Yeah, it
play
looks like there's
Saturday.
going to be a want for it. So yeah, I'll if I got to remember, but I will gladly put one up. I got to look at the USA schedule and go from there. But
Okay.
yeah, if there's demand for it, I'll put one up.
Ask and you shall receive. Dave can be a reasonable man, and this is an example of that.
I am, if anything, extremely reasonable.
Sure. Okay.
Wow. You can kiss the darkest part of my ass.
Hey, listen. Bad Bunny was in the Super Bowl on Sunday. You have to be nice to me. Okay.
I don't have to be nice to you. That performance was awesome, by the
It
way.
was great.
I
I
loved
was
every second of it, and I
me too.
loved how everybody blew up. Why can't this be an American? Bitch, Puerto Rico is America.
He is. What
Like he's American. What the fuck do you want? You too is not American. You too is not an American. They're
Shania
not
Twain's
American
not
citizens.
American. Ron is not American. The
Rihanna's
Rolling
not an
Stones
American
aren't
citizen.
American. Paul McCartney's not American, but those are
No.
the problem. But anyways, that's beside the point. I can go on
Yeah.
and on about that. Very proud
I
Puerto
wonder.
Rican man.
I wonder. White. This might be an issue for some people.
Oh well. That's not my problem at this point.
No, it's not my problem either. If you have a problem with what I just said, you can fuck off.
Right. All right. And this last question comes from I don't know if this is your burner account or not, but this is a name that you've espoused.
I do not have a burner account on my own
Okay.
website. I'm not that much of a pathetic douchebag.
This comes from Dreary Got Fleeced, which is why I think that it might have been your burner. But Dreary Got Fleeced asked, how long do you feel it will be before James Dolan wakes up and realizes how awful this current situation Drury and Co. have gotten them into truly is? And when that finally happens, will he go and seek outside help in his search for the next general manager?
Okay, so you're gonna laugh at this answer, JL. I had to Google a couple of things. So for starters,
He,
James Dolan is going to be 71 years old in May. The average age of American men upon death is around 76. So I give it another 5 years.
okay.
Will he go out and search for the next general manager? No. Whomever he leaves the team to will be doing that.
So you
I
think?
do not think James Dolan sees a Stanley Cup in his ownership lifetime. Period.
Well, I mean, we kind of all knew that. Unfortunately, we have to say that. But so you think that? So you think that the next person, or he probably even sells before then, if you think about it.
No, I think he's going to die. That's not an oh my god statement, folks. He's 71 years old. Okay?
Well, it's not an
Back off.
out-of-pocket statement either. I mean, you
No,
could
he's
say the same thing about a lot of owners, sports teams these days.
also billionaires live forever apparently, so maybe I'm wrong on that. I'm not wishing harm upon him. I'm just statistically speaking, he's got another 5 years left. So, he's not going to fire Drury in 5 years unless this team is just, so bad they win 3 games next year. I don't think that's going to happen. Drury's his guy. He finally got his head coach. He's finally doing with what needed to be done probably last year, which is blowing the team up. I mean, it's not happening.
I
Sorry to burst your bubble, Drury.
Yeah, I think it's gonna not be this season upcoming. It's gonna be the next year. I think next season it all. So this is how I see things going, because I think with, again, his age being up there, he's 71, so this would be like 73, 74. Um, he would more than likely start to put in, if they're not playing well, if they're still bad, right? And I'm not talking about, you know, if they go and like show that they can make the playoffs, then they're gonna stay. But if it's like this again, I think Dolan makes a decision, because if there's one thing I've noted, we all thought that Gordon and Davidson were sticking around. We all thought that was the case. We There was nothing that would have shown us that they were sticking around, and for a long time he did support them, outside of the whole him writing the letter to uh Commissioner Bettman, and then Gordon and Davidson kind of not agreeing with it. So that's what I think could happen between now and then, within the next 2 years. Because again, people don't think that, as little as he cares about hockey, he still wants to make the playoff revenue at the end of the day, business wise. You don't want your hockey team to be in total doldrums, because he's already gone through that, the last couple of years, but also with what happened during the Dark Ages. And at his advanced age right now, you think he wants to do that again? No, of course not. So I think what'll happen is, because he's getting older, he'll make that sort of determination. And I think the next person that comes in will keep Sullivan as coach, because you'd be stupid not to keep him. If they decide to let him go, I think that'd be kind of dumb. But I know you mentioned one point Mark Messier, which I think would be the stupidest thing if he did that. I mean, that's kind of just like, again, polishing a turd. Uh, Brendan Shanahan is somebody in my head that comes to mind that I think could probably want to do the job, so to speak. He probably has a bit more. He's probably similar to Drury, but will probably relate to some of the players a little bit better, and it wouldn't be as toxic. I mean, Toronto did build somewhat of a decent core with him at the helm, but you gotta let the guys do what they gotta do. So yeah, no, it's not gonna happen. So I think when it comes to Dolan and Drury, we just kind of have to deal with it, which is unfortunate. But like I said before, and I've said this to people, and I'll say it here, I think what we have to ultimately do, if you don't want to lose your mind, this is how I thought with the Wilpons, is you kind of have to think, all right, well, every season is going to be somewhat different, and you just kind of have to hope and pray that they luck into a decent season. I think it'll be a little bit more consistent in that aspect with the Rangers, because they do say that they realize stuff. With the Wilpons, it was just, those guys are just idiots. Not to say Chris Drury's not, but they seem to be a little bit more informed on things to a degree. And that's just probably key. And then with also Mike Sullivan's influence, that's the only reason why I haven't gone totally nuclear yet. So there's that. All right. Those are our questions. That is pretty much it for this episode. Do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up tonight, Dave?
I do not have any final. It's funny. 2 days ago, I was like, "Oh, that's a good final thought." Not only do I not remember what it was, my brain is not braining today. Today really took a lot out of me. Uh, so yeah, I got nothing. Just I really hope this snow melts soon. I'm really getting sick and tired of it.
Well, apparently it's supposed to be in the 50s next week, so that should help. Thank goodness.
Ooh, you
Yeah.
know what? I want some good old fashioned rain.
It might come
Like,
next
what
week. Who
happened
knows?
to the rain? I'm so sick of this snow, wintry mix, sleet, frozen rain. Can I just get some good old fashioned rain? Like, wash my
Well,
car for free, please.
well, soon enough, Dave. Soon enough. The warmer it gets, we're going into February and into March, and we'll get that. But we'll probably end up getting one more snowstorm before then,
Ooh,
so don't hold
ooh,
out too much.
ooh! It's gonna rain Wednesday, Thursday, Friday next week.
Oh, the
Yes.
snow the snow's gonna if it's gonna be anything more than 45 degrees, the snow's gonna melt. So there you go.
Yeah. Win, win. I think.
Congratulations. Okay.
Thank you. Ending
Um,
this on a high note.
in terms of my final thoughts, I'm still optimistic to a degree, but I've definitely been jaded. Uh, I'm very curious to see how this offseason goes with more cap space. I am hoping that by next year, uh, this team will have a little bit more front end skill and can actually, play hockey without making me sad. And I hope that goes for all of you
Sorry.
as well. So, I mean, we can be negative all we want, and that's probably the right thing to do. But I have to always somewhat look on the bright side. But I am a bit jaded. But I mean, we'll see. I will always. It's basically the way that I think about the Rangers is the way that I think about our country. I love the United States. I do not love the government. That's not a controversial thing to say. That is something that is echoing through many different countries and cultures throughout the world. I love the New York Rangers. I am not thrilled with the management. At the end of the day, it's a game, it's a sport. We cover it, we follow it, we talk about it, but there's only so much influence we can exert. And the best thing to do is express your grievances in a proper manner. I'm not saying you can't be mad, feel the way that you feel, but it's got to be something to be happy about. All right, so that's pretty much my final thought. Thank you again to everyone who sent out their questions and comments. Elvis is about to leave the building if he hadn't left yet, and we'll talk to you guys next week. And go Team USA! You can fly free. Okay, I'm not going to say it anymore.
You're
Good
really
night,
letting this one
everybody.
singing.
Good night.